All right, guys, welcome to today's live. It's Saturday. It's a wonderful day here in California, and I hope you guys are having a great weekend as well. I have a topic for today. I'm not going to really stay to it that long because it's something that kind of resonates through everything I do, and that is the idea that I love training dogs, and I train dogs because I love dogs. And it came to my attention a few weeks ago when I was talking to some people that so many people get into dog training because there's a lot of money to be made, a tremendous amount of ego and stuff like that. And I see that the people who really are the most passionate about it are often the people who are the best at it. People who approach it from a holistic standpoint, people who approach it from a compassionate standpoint, people who are always trying to give back to dogs. That's really, in my opinion, a better trainer than someone who scholastically excelled in theory or application of, of dog training or of science or anything like that. And I think that's what we're often losing in these current arguments where people are overly scientific about it, and in my opinion, are really reducing dogs and dog training to a science experiment. I hate that. I really, really hate that. The only thing I hate more than that is dogs in shelters. It drives me up a wall. It angers me and saddens me at the exact same time. It's the most convoluted mix of emotions I can possibly express to anyone. When I see a dog in a shelter, I want to cry and I want to rip somebody's throat out at the same time. It really, it's the most bewildering feeling I have. So that being said, guys, please check out my page, robertcabral.com/adopt, because on that page, I feature dogs that need adoption. And the one that's the most pressing for me right now is this dog, Amiga. Amiga is, I can't say enough good things about this dog. She's beautiful. She's absolutely one of the most beautiful dogs I've ever seen. And I'm a complete dog snob. I mean, I'm so vain about looks on dogs. I love them all, but when they're really beautiful, I really am drawn to them. She is stunning. She's sweet. She's kind. She's been locked up in her kennel in the shelter for a year. I will do anything to get this dog adopted, anything to get her into a loving home. It doesn't need to be a great trainer. It should be somebody who's, somewhat dog savvy. She's a strong dog, but she's not aggressive. There's nothing wrong with this dog, and she's beautiful. And what happens when people see her in the shelter, she's spinning around. So this is where that love of dogs really comes in, where we really need to get more people who really care and care about and love dogs than anything else. That's really the solution, because everything else is secondary. And a lot of those other things are really destroying dogs. I mean, nothing annoys me more than, backyard breeders. People are breeding dogs and selling them on Craigslist. I mean, if I was, king for a day, I would arrest those people, because it's disgusting. It's really, really bad. Now, when I say backyard breeder, I want to touch on this for a second, because it's always often a topic that comes to the forefront. People may breed, a good breeder may breed dogs in their backyard. In other words, they may have the dogs in their backyard, but that is not a backyard breeder. In fact, in Europe, the best bred dogs come from families. It's a person who has a dog and another person who has a dog, and they know the dog, they know the genetics of the dog, they go through the coring, they go through the breed survey, they get the information, and then they breed these two dogs, and those dogs go to other great families. This over obsession with working dog homes and breeding working dogs often breeds dogs that are not the best dogs, right? I mean, too many people are breeding these high drive dogs with other high drive dogs, and then you end up with these dogs that are so insane that if they're not working, biting, working in the military or whatever, they're not able to maintain a lifestyle. And those dogs are often, they go from home to home to home to home, and it's not I mean, this is where I disagree with a lot of the sports because they're overbreeding for these higher and higher and higher drives, as opposed to breeding for nicer and nicer and nicer dogs. Nice dogs can do the sports. I've seen it. I've seen it. And, I remember a couple days ago, maybe a week or so ago, I was talking with my friend Danny Craig, who Danny bred some of the best Malinois that I've ever seen. And Danny is one of the nicest people I've ever known. And he's a compassionate guy. He loves animals. I mean, you'll see he's feeding hawks. He's feeding coyotes at his house. He's a real animal lover. And in that, he's a dog lover. And in that, he bred the nicest dogs. And he said, people are doing way too much with these puppies. They're putting these puppies way too much stress. And they're breeding dogs that are not sustainable. So, look, I'm not any authority in the working dog world, but I'm certainly a voice that people know. And my encouragement would be to breed dogs that are more stable and better in homes, as opposed to dogs that run faster, bark louder, and bite harder. A dog that's better in a home is a more likely dog to make it through all levels of everything, including life, than the dogs that, run faster, bite harder, and bark louder. Those dogs are not necessarily the best dogs to try to breed together to get the next level. I mean, you're creating a monster. That's it. So in what we're talking about here, in loving dogs, and really having a passion for dogs, whether you're a dog owner, whether you're a dog, sport dog person, whether you're a trainer, a rescuer, or anything, if you can take the position of the dog's core needs, right? What is the core needs of this dog? Stimulation, safety, trust, structure. Those are important components in a dog. The dog needs to have those to be alive and to thrive. When we take those into consideration above all else, we're saying we love dogs. Now, I've talked to people who own dogs, trainers, who's telling me, I'm not really a dog lover. I'm a dog trainer. I don't think, in my opinion, you should be training dogs if you don't love dogs. I mean, take that as you may. I disagree strongly with that. I think if you don't have a real care for children, you shouldn't be a pediatrician. It's different than other things. You don't have to love numbers to be an accountant, but you have to love dogs. You have to have their best interest at heart. Because if you do, like I always talk to people, they say, you correct dogs, you do this, you do that. And that's absolutely true. And the reason I correct them is because I love them. And the reason I want to give them that structure is because I see what goes on with dogs when they don't have it. I see dogs that are trained, and I see dogs that are failed by training that isn't, what's the word I want to use? That isn't focused on the dog's best interest. People that always let things go, they let that go. He's doing it because of da 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 da. Those are the dogs that end up in shelters. When you let dogs get away with little things, their key survival skills and traits and DNA kicks into it. And when that kicks in is when the dog starts doing things like bad behavior. Especially if you have a dog that lends itself to dominance, like a shepherd, a Rottweiler, a Mastiff, or anything like that. Okay, if you have a golden retriever, it's usually not a bad idea, but it can be. When you have a dog like a pit bull, it's a really bad idea. A Malinois, it's a really bad idea. Because here you have dogs that are dominant with an excessive amount of drive. And I'm saying this, the Malinois is the next pit bull. Pit bulls are screwed. And I put that video out on Boldo, a really nice pit bull, the West LA shelter. That dog, and I'm going to at one point do a one topic podcast on this. Because people say, that's not a pit bull, that's a bulldog mix and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to tell you something, guys. If it looks like a pit bull, it smells like a pit bull, it walks like a pit bull, it's a pit bull. people say, well, there's no such thing. There's no breed as pit bulls, but there actually is. There's American Pit Bull Terrier, okay, and the Staffordshire Terrier. But they say it's a classic. So that you get into all these things because people are trying to make an excuse, right? They're trying to stay away from breed-specific legislation, BSL. And that's fine. I understand that. But if it's a pit bull type dog and it's in the shelter, it's probably in there because it was bred, and I said this, I said it and I'll say it again, by really degrading people. That can be inner city. It can be white trash. It can be Hispanic. It can be anything, okay? But generally, you'll see these people. In the South, you'll see it with the trailer park redneck, scumbags. In LA, you'll see it in the black neighborhoods and the Hispanic neighborhoods. It's not a racist thing, right? It's straight across the board. There are amazingly great black people, and there are scumbag black people. There are amazingly great white people, and there are scumbag white people. Amazingly great Jews, scumbag Jews. Amazingly great Muslims, scumbag Muslims. It doesn't matter. But because we're in this politically correct culture where as soon as I say, oh, that guy's an ass, and he happens to be, let's say, gay, then, oh, you're homophobic. No, I'm not. I've got tons of gay friends. I've got black friends, straight friends, white friends, gay friends. I have all kinds of friends. So I don't have that in my vocabulary to curb my tongue because that person falls into a specific genre, right? So I'll call a spade on anything. And I always say this, the reason I hate more white people than any other person is because I know more white people than any other person. So if you see me critical of any group of people, it's going to be white, straight males, because I know more of them. So that being said, I will open this chat up to questions because I want to really focus on questions because there's a lot of them and a lot of people have questions. So remember one thing, one plug, one shameless plug. If you want to check out my online dog training at robertcabral.com, there is a host of information there. Tons of videos. I mean, just tons, hundreds of videos. There is countless hours of instruction. Everything from problem solving, the smallest things, pet dog training. There's some competitive stuff on there. There is aggression. There's puppy things. There's every single issue you could possibly imagine you will get on that site for under $20 a month. You cannot get a better deal because all the other sites are charging you courses, which is so much and so much and so much. Now, that being said, I also have a course, which is the Shelter Dog Training course, which is designed for dog trainers. And this year, I will be launching more courses because by the end of the year, I will have a Robert Cabral certified dog trainer course because everybody's asking me for it because all these other people are doing it. I don't really believe in thinking it's that important to have somebody's name behind you. But if that helps you guys and you want to learn the information, you want to see how I train and my theories and stuff like that, I'm working on putting that together. So save your money. It's going to be coming, and it's a great course. It's going to involve a lot of the stuff that I've already shown, but really refining it and getting you to understand how to apply it as a professional dog trainer. And then, yes, you'll have a certification. There'll be a lot of things involved in it, sending in videos. It will not be just click through a couple of videos and get a certification. It's not like that. It'll be very intensive. And if you've gone through the Shelter Dog Training course, that's a very, very intensive course. And basically, if you go through that course, you're pretty much going to be a pretty darn good dog trainer. So let me take a look at the questions. Thank you guys all for putting the question mark before your question, because that helps me to look through it. I will look through that. I see Janet's here. I think that's great. Thank you, honey, for being here. She's upstairs doing either yoga or spinning. She's quite athletic and loves to do that on Saturday morning. So I will run through these questions here. I'll have to wear my glasses. I'm going to go start here. Dennis Knight, our 3-year-old Doberman is leash reactive to dogs. Some people, I can't seem to get her through it. The reason dogs are dog reactive is because they're generally in a position that they don't understand, right? So they're either being aggressive or they're being engaging. They're trying to engage. Reactive, you need to really define it. Is she reactive like she wants to play, or is she reactive that she wants to fight? Reactive is a term that's often misused because we don't want to say the dog's aggressive because we're afraid of that term. Oh, if he's aggressive, what do we do? Some dogs are aggressive on a leash, right? And when people say, oh, he's just reactive, well, his reaction is aggressive. He has an aggressive reaction. Structure will get through to the dog. Now, I don't know what you're doing to your dog. I have no idea because you're not really telling me. What I would encourage you to do is get the dog to understand some basic obedience, sit down, stand, whatever it is, come, heel, foos, whatever, and get that dog to understand that in a completely neutral environment. Once the dog understands it there, I would start to introduce the dog to something distracting at a distance and correct for the behavior. In other words, if you tell the dog to sit and the dog looks over and walks over to the other dog, which is maybe 10, 15 feet away, you correct the dog. But bringing the dog immediately too close that's not going to work. Now, people say, well, I can't keep my dog at a distance from other dogs. Well, that's going to be very hard to train your dogs. It's very, very hard. That's the way I would do it. Fix my racket. Female 1-year-old Belgian Malinois cannot recall. She has absolutely no food or toy drive and very aggressive towards other dogs or people. So that's a really bad situation. I mean, this more than likely is something that it has not been solved since the dog was young. But at 1 year old, I mean, the dog, you probably have not had a come to Jesus meeting with this dog. This dog needs to understand that if she doesn't have toy. First of all, I've never met a Malinois with no food and no toy drive. Never met one. Never met one in my life. But if she doesn't have food or toy drive, she has survival drive. And that means she wants to stay alive. And that means you need to make sure she understands 100% that she will come to you when you call her, by hook or crook. And I'm being honest with you, because if you don't fix this, she's very aggressive towards dogs and people, then she has one option. One option. One option is she listens to you or she dies. That's it. I'm going to be real square with you on this one. You've got a 1-year-old female Belgian Malinois who doesn't listen for food and doesn't listen for toys and doesn't listen and is aggressive to people and dogs. You're going to be killing this dog. So what I would do anything at any level to get this dog to listen to me. And that would involve firm corrections. But I would first look at why this dog doesn't have food or toy drive, because there's something wrong with this dog. I'll talk to the breeder. But if your dog doesn't listen to you, and she has no recall, and she is aggressive to people and dogs, which means she's going to hurt a dog or a person, you're going to be putting this dog down. Nice to see you, Chicago. Can you tell us your process for introducing dogs when one is fearful, timid, and has caused them to sometimes bark and appear aggressive? Well, the first thing I do is I protect when I'm going to introduce new dogs to one another. The first thing I always do is the new dog goes in a crate and the current dog has freedom. So if I bring a puppy into my house, that puppy will go in a crate. That puppy will sit in that crate, and all my dogs will be able to walk around that crate and sniff it, and it protects two things. The puppy doesn't get stomped on or bumped or anything like that, and my dogs continue to do their life. Then I do structured things. Off the premises, I'll introduce them, let them walk together, I'll let them sniff each other, and then one by one, I introduce my dogs. But if your dog is fearful, then you need to make sure that it's fair. And sometimes, some dogs, you may have a certain dog in your house where you can't bring another dog into your house. Some people have dogs that are super aggressive. You can't bring another dog in. That's the cards that you drew. But you must do it in a really structured and neutral manner. If they're in the house, that new dog should be crated and should be confined. And if you're outside, then that dog should be, they must be on a leash and they must be controlled. Are there any resources for training a Belgian Malinois or herding dog? I don't have any resources for that at all. I don't train herding dogs at all. Tasha does, the girl who bred Goofy. She's a herding dog trainer. I would look into another avenue for that. Let's see. Thank you for your videos on grief. I truly appreciate it. I lost my hope. She was my whole life. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. There's nothing worse. And I go, and I'm running my mind through it because we have 3 13-year-old dog's Goofy will be 14 in a couple of weeks. And I think about it every day. And Janet's really a great help to me because she kind of gets my head straight again. And that's one of the best things you can have. When I lost Silly, I didn't have anybody and I was alone. And it was really, really, really hard for me. So, yeah. All right. I'm only going to take questions with a question. So I'm going to kind of scream through here really quick. I'm just looking for question marks, question marks, question marks. Here's one, Ryan. Our 10-month-old, and notice I'm reading Ryan's question because he has a question mark in front of it, so I know it's a question. Otherwise, you guys could be, just chatting and stuff like that, and I think it's fantastic. You guys can do that, but you can't spam. Remember that. Ryan says, our 10-month-old female Malinois rescue was living on the streets before we got her. She is insanely food-motivated, hypervigilant, and will eat until she's sick. What can I do? Well, what you can do, Ryan, whenever you have turn this off. Whenever you have a dog that has these obsessive behaviors. This was a dog who was on the street. She's probably fighting for food, so she's hyper obsessive. You need to make sure that you're structuring her life again. You need to make sure that she knows she has a purpose and she has safety. And when she has that, she'll kind of calm down. Be careful not to feed into that behavior and trait that she has, which is of feeling a certain way, which is not valid anymore, right? She has no reason to be hyper alert because she's safe. She has no reason to really, scarf up her food because there's plenty of food. And she should see that. Now, what you got to be careful of is that she doesn't overeat and, and bust her stomach and end up sick. Just be real calm with her. Just let her, decompress. Let her see that everything is cool. Everything's chill. She has food. She has you. And she'll come around. It may take some time, but she will come around. Wayne says, the media, social movies are showing these dogs as giving people unachievable expectations. As a trainer at a GSD club, not sport, it is unfortunate and sad truth that too many people are getting the wrong dog for the wrong reason. It's getting worse. Yeah. Here's the thing. I see your point, and you're right. Right? You see these movies, you see Dog, you see John Wick, you see all these movies, and you go, oh, I got to get a Malinois. Well, those people are idiots, right? If you see something in a movie and then you need to get it because it's in a movie, then you're part of the problem, right? These people are really stupid. And I'll tell you, a lot of people are really stupid because what happens is they buy into the social media hype. Everything on social media is bullshit. Right? I hate social media. I'll tell you why I love it, because it brings me the opportunity to help dogs and to help people like you guys. But people who watch this stuff and who look at this stuff and who buy into this stuff and say, oh, like I'm really against all this social media, with protection dog training. Everything is these crazy bites and these crazy attacks and these crazy aggressive Malinois. Nobody's really showing cute, fun stuff on the Malinois. They show the one thing I hate to see, by the way, don't even send it to me on Instagram or anything, is those Malinois who jump up, like a 20-foot wall and then people catch them. Nothing makes me more upset than that. It's just infuriating because when you miss and when you don't catch that dog properly or your arm doesn't catch onto that dog properly, you got a paralyzed dog and a severely injured dog. So it's stupid. Social media is really the greatest tool to destroy civilization. Because I would think less than 1%, maybe a half of 1%, even less than that, 1/10 of 1% of people actually use social media for something beneficial, like learning more about their dogs, learning about fitness, learning about history, learning about anything. They're on there watching people doing stuff. They go, oh my God, can you see, look at that guy. That guy's da-da-da-da. Well, the guy's probably on crazy steroids, working out 10 hours a day, and he probably has no life. Or the women with the plastic surgery, or the dogs with the biting, or the people in private planes. And it's all lies. It's all crap. Love your dog, train your dog, get a dog you can handle. That's the key. Now my computer locked up. Let's see here. Let me see if I just got to relaunch the this mirroring. Give me 1 second, guys. For some reason, my display pooped out on me here. Hang on 1 second. I'm going to go here, system settings. There we go. I'm sorry, guys. I'm really sorry. I just got a major faux pas here where my screen locked up. So I've got to... There we go. Whoops. All right, so now I think I can restart it in 1 sec. These are the technical things you go through when you're a one-man show. But I think I got it wired here. Hang on. There we go. All right, good. So put the comments back over here, and we should be good to go. All right. That was that. I'm learning to figure this stuff out a lot faster because before I would have to reboot the whole thing. I'd lose all of you guys. So that was Wayne's. Dennis Kim says, how do you correct a male dog that sometimes pees inside on purpose or because it smells? Well, first of all, I make sure that any dog that is peeing inside has no access to do that, right? I make sure the dog is crated. I take the dog from the crate to the outside, to the crate, back to the outside. And I will tell you, whatever smell you have in your house, you need to get rid of. And the only way you're going to get rid of that is either get rid of the furniture that the dog peed on, or recarpet, or use an immense amount of a cleaner like Nature's Miracle, something that will neutralize those odors. But you're going to have that scent there forever. So you need to be on top of your dog. You need to make sure that that dog doesn't have free rein. Goes from, on a leash from the crate outside, back to the crate. And then you watch that dog and you monitor that dog, 24/7. Because if you don't catch it, you're letting him get away with it. Let's see here. Janine. How to best correct an almost 2-year-old dog who chews and nibbles on I guess you mean on me while relaxing on the couch to get attention. Well, you correct the dog. People always say, how do I correct the dog? I just don't let them do it. If a dog is nibbling on me, I take their mouth off and I go, hey, knock it off. And I remove from the dog situation. People say, how do you get your dog not to chew on a table? Well, I watch him when he goes to chew on a table. I stop him. You have to prevent the behavior, right? In other words, if you're not going to correct the dog, if the dog is chewing on me, I put the dog in a crate. Take him back out. And when he chews, it goes back in a crate. There's something negative that's going to happen from the chewing. That's, especially for a 2-year-old dog, you should have gotten on this at about 20 weeks. About 16 weeks. That's where you want to start fixing these things. It's really important that a lot of behavior things with dogs are not addressed early on. People let them get away with, oh, look, it's cute. He's chewing on my shoe. Oh, well, he's teething and da-da-da. It doesn't matter. If you don't give your puppy the tools to become a dog, you're going to have a misbehaved, unruly dog. You must train your puppy to do what you want your dog to do, because your puppy is going to grow up into a dog, and letting puppies get away with puppy behaviors too much doesn't create a good dog. It creates a really misbehaved dog. So that's important to remember. Shunda. Why and how to fix dogs having problems when they don't see me present means that they be sneaky and would do something I don't want them to do when they know I left home, for example. Well, if you have a dog that's doing that, if you have a dog that's misbehaving when you're not there, then you need to prevent that misbehavior. And the easiest way to do that is going to be to crate the dog or to confine the dog someplace. Also, nowadays with all the great technological advances we have, like these webcams and all these crazy electronics. I mean, I used to use a baby monitor years and years ago. Like when Goofy was a puppy, back then they were expensive. I spent like, $150, $200 on a baby monitor. And I would set it in a room and I would leave the room. And and I left the house. And if he did something, I'd come back and, hey. And he'd always think, Goofy always thinks I'm watching. He always thinks I'm there. And for example, Maya didn't. When I first got Maya, she was, I think, 3 years old. By the time she was 4 or 5 or I don't even know what it was, she, chewed up one of my couches because she never thought, she even when I was there, she's like, oh, whatever, because she wasn't raised properly as a young puppy. So she's become a great dog now. She's 13. But it takes a lot of, repetition and staying on top of it. But you need to do the hard work on your dog to make sure that the dog understands that you're always present. You need to be clear about that. People don't watch their dogs. I can tell you that right now. I see it in, when I teach. I've got 3 or 4 people there. People are talking and the dog's behind them, like fence fighting with another dog, or picking up bottle caps or something. Like, my dog is always in my view, and when my dog's not in my view, I change my view. I'll turn around and look at my dog. I don't ever not pay attention to my dog. I think that's a really, really big piece. I see hi from South Africa. Great to see you. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Lynn. Fiona. If you don't have a question mark, like, notice the question marks over here. Oops, over here. Those question marks get your questions answered. Just so you know, it's easier. It's much easier for me. Sorry. I got a border collie, rough collie mix. She's very reactive and has strong herding instinct. She doesn't like me or my kids to get in the water. She will bark desperately nonstop and get very stressed. She can go in the water, but won't let us. Any advice? Yeah, that's not uncommon for a collie. For a herding type behavior. Goofy used to do that. Maya would do it too. They would see me getting in the water and they get all, they can't herd you and do whatever. So you just have to get her used to it. Maybe put her in a crate, get in the pool. I'm assuming you're using a pool, and get her to understand that this is just the way it's going to be. And maybe just be chill in the pool, let her kind of calm down. The more dogs see something, the more they get used to it. As long as they're not allowed to act on, in other words, aggression, for example, right? If the dog's aggressive to other dogs, if I can get this dog to see other dogs without being aggressive and it becomes more common in their minds, oftentimes that will dilute the aggression by more exposure. For example, my friend Kyle will take a dog that's aggressive and bring it in his backyard with 7 Corsos and Neos. So the dog's not going to be aggressive because there's too many, right? You can't fight that many dogs when you're one dog. So the exposure of you doing the behavior of, let's say, swimming should get the dog to understand that that's totally acceptable, and the dog will, accept it. But you're going to have to spend some time doing it. Jim here, can you talk about your relationship building? Yeah, I love talking about relationship building because I think it's the most important thing in your life with your dog. More important than any obedience, anything else with your dog is building a solid relationship. And it starts day one. The first interaction you have with that dog, the very first interaction you have with that dog is the most important because it'll make your dog realize who you are, right? Whenever I see dogs first for, clients' dogs, I generally ignore them. I don't greet them. Once I know them, I'll greet them. But when I first meet them, I talk to the client, I talk to the person and kind of carry on. And then maybe in 5 minutes, I'll kind of reach down, pet the dog and say, oh, what a good boy. My own dogs, if it's a dog I'm going to be training, it all starts with hand feeding. Everything is going to work with hand feeding. I'm going to have all the food for the dog. And I'm going to be feeding and luring and rewarding and touching and palpating and lifting and holding and all these different things with the dog, because that's what I want the dog to understand, that I'm the closest thing to the mother. The mother has the milk, I have the food. And when I have that relationship later, if I need to correct or structure anything, it's fair because I started out from a nurturing development. And then, early on, I don't expect too much from dogs. I don't really focus a lot on obedience. I'm focusing on luring and doing things, but I don't want to be the person who's automatically saying, sit down, come, da, da, da. I hate when people do that. And even if you rescue a dog, when you first get the dog to your house, just let the dog chill out. Put the dog in a crate, take the dog for a couple walks, feed the dog, hand feed the dog if you can, and get the dog to understand that, hey, this is a chill place. Many, many people overtrain their dogs. Right? And I was guilty of it myself. And I was told about it many years ago. Don't overtrain your dogs. Let your dog just have some downtime. You can train your dog 20 minutes twice a day or so. That's all the dog needs. You don't need to be overly, crazy about that. Don, if you need help on the account, email Alan, which is info@robertcabral.com. There's forms there. Any issues you have on the website, I'm telling you guys, my social media is not the place to do it because I send it to Alan. I send it to the email. I'm telling you, info@robertcabral.com. If you have any issues with your accounts, that's the place to go. Let's see. I see this here, but you don't have a question mark. So I'm going to give you this one because I just happened to bump onto it. But generally, I like you guys to have a question mark because there's so many people. How many people do we have in here now? 171 people. I just got 2 Conner Corso puppies are 10 weeks old. I am worried about littermate syndrome. What suggestions do you have to prevent this? Give one away. Sell one. Return one. Do not under any conditions, under any circumstances, do not under any circumstances, I repeat it, do not under any circumstances have 2 Conner Corso puppies. If you have 2 puppies that are from the same litter or that are the same age, that are close in age, get rid of one. Find a beautiful, good, caring, loving home for one of those dogs. That should be your number one goal. That goal should be as important as feeding your dog. If you have 2 puppies and you want to have a solid relationship with them, get rid of one of the puppies because you're going to have a very hard time, nearly impossible to train them both. And if it's a Malinois, if it's a German Shepherd, if it's a Conner Corso, if it's a Pit Bull, if it's any kind of a dominant dog, please don't have 2 dogs. Let's see here. Okay, Melissa. I have a 9-year-old American Akita who generally does well on leash. When other dogs go by and I see that people can't control them, we go off the trail. I put them in a sit. However, sometimes the other dogs will pull at us, I think you mean, and growl. Should I be correcting my dog if he is not in a sit and tries to get away? Well, yeah, you can't control another. I always say I can control your dog and my dog, but I prefer you to control your dog. If you have your dog and your dog is not paying attention to you, you should correct your dog. Now, if an off-leash dog comes running up to your dog and you have your dog on a tight leash, you're probably going to end up in a fight, right? Your dog is going to fight because your dog feels like he can't get away. This dog is in your space. He's going to fight to protect you and fight to protect himself. So I don't go hiking where there's other dogs, especially if I know dog's going to be off leash, or I would carry something that would, scare them away. I'd call somebody, go, hey, call your dog, call your dog, call your dog. And if you didn't, I would have some pepper spray or something. I would, you need to control the environment for your dog. Because if you have an American Akita and that dog gets in a fight, you're going to have some serious medical bills. And, if a dog comes up to your dog and you have your dog on leash and you're doing the right thing and they're not, look, the best thing to do is don't go to environments like that. Like I never, ever, ever go to off-leash dog parks. I just don't do it. And when I see people with the dog off leash, I say, hey, call your dog. And if they don't, I'll have an air horn, I'll have something. But even with my hands, my feet, I can get a dog to move away from me real quick. And I would, because that correction would be a lot less than if my dogs get in a fight. So. Thank you, Lucy. We're very, very well. Philip. Recently, my 18-month-old Frenchie started marking inside. Haven't caught him in the act yet. Any advice on how to deal with this? 2 things I would always check out when dogs mark inside. The first is, does the dog have a urinary tract infection? Is there something wrong why the dog is marking and peeing often inside? If you've properly house trained the dog, they shouldn't do that. But up until, that year window, and now you're at 18 months, I would certainly be real certain that the dog has access to going outside, like near a doggy door, and I would work on confining the dog a little bit so the dog has access to go outside and can come inside, but can go right back outside if they have to potty. And watch your dog. If your dog's inside, you're not paying attention, he's marking, there's nothing you can do. Like I said that before. Fenrir Aldebrand. Want to bring my 7-month-old Belgian Malinois to the dog park for the first time. Non-aggressive with roommates husky, but intact and does like play dominating. Best way to avoid the problems. The best way to avoid those problems is to avoid the dog park. Do not take your Malinois to a dog park. End of discussion. Crystal. Do you have any recommendations for low impact exercise for a dog that loves tug and has hip dysplasia? It's his favorite game. Well, I mean, I think you could play tug with the dog. I mean, hip dysplasia is something where you really are going to have an issue with the dog jumping, walking, or anything like that. I don't know if tug is really, I mean, it probably will because the dog's pushing off on the back and front legs. I don't know any exercises. I mean, light walking, is going to be the best thing. It depends how severe the hip dysplasia is, how old the dog is. Those are things to think about. But it's a tough one, man. Hip dysplasia is a real, real tough one. I pray to God I never see it. So, Tori, first time prong collar advice, please, would you choose the 3 or 3.25 regular length links or the 3 millimeter short links? I always use, if you can get the 3 millimeter short links, which are the same size as the 2.25 millimeter, but they're the 3 millimeter steel thickness, because the millimeter is the thickness of the steel, not the size of the link. If you can do that, then I would certainly do that. And there's a well-mannered pit, 85 pounds, 20-inch neck. Yeah, I would really. I really like the 2.25 millimeter thickness of the prong. And you can get. Oh, sorry, I'm backing up now. You can get the 2.25 millimeter thickness in the. Let me rephrase that. The 3 millimeter wire thickness in the 2 millimeter size. You can get that, the short links. So that's what I would suggest to use. I think I said it right the first time. Jim, what is a good way to start training with a platform, and what skill does it develop or reinforce? Well, a lot. So a platform is beneficial for teaching a dog a certain place command, a position. It's helpful for teaching the dog like you're down and everything like that. It's also a send to target. You can send the dog to a certain place, like to that platform. You can use the platform for clean fronts. It's a great thing. I mean, everybody's using a platform or a box to clean those things up. SJ, my 4-year-old lurcher hates being humped. Well, we all hate being humped, to be honest with you. An off-lead dog came up to him on lead and tried to hump him. I told the other dog off by snapping at it. Is that acceptable? The other owner got cross with mine. Whoa. An off-leash dog comes up to your dog and starts humping your dog, and you correct said dog, and that owner is upset with you? Are they freaking insane? Are they absolutely morons? You have an absolute right to correct that dog. I would have smacked that dog so hard, I would have smacked him into the next city. You do not get to come up to my dog. You do not get to run up on my dog and hump my dog. No, I'm sorry. You're right. You come running up to my dog and you hump my dog, I'm going to correct you firmly. And if the owner says something about it, that owner's going to get corrected firmly, because that dog is out of control and the owner is an idiot for not maintaining control over that dog. So you keep doing what you're doing. I'd carry a stick. Let's see here. Dennis, Kim. Let's see. Dennis, I don't know. I mean, if the dog is peeing in the house, I would grab him by the scruff of his neck and take him outside. Before I did that, I would take my dog to the veterinarian and I would have the dog checked to make sure he doesn't have a urinary tract infection. That would be a key thing. Janet put a suggestion up just a few minutes ago. It says, have you tried a belly band? You can put a belly band on. It's uncomfortable because it pushes their wiener against them and then they pee on themselves and they don't like it. It usually fixes the problem. The belly band is not a bad idea, but also a firm correction is not a bad idea either. Blissful Canine, nice to see you here. Just received your book, Selling Used Dogs, a week ago. Great book so far. Grabbing some copies for the county shelter I volunteer with. Thanks again for the hat and shirts. Great job with Tasky. Thank you. You know, I didn't have much to do with Tasky. I made the video. Tasky was a really nice dog. Jan and I both really liked him. And we just got lucky, you know. But I pray to God we could get this lucky with Amiga. God help Amiga. Please, somebody help me get Amiga home. I would do anything to get her home. And selling used dogs, by the way, for those of you who are asking that question, I wrote two books. I'm working on a third book. This book is going to be very interesting. I think you'll like it. The books I wrote were called Selling Used Dogs, which was the first book I wrote, and it dealt with how to market dogs in shelters for adoption. It's a really well done book. It's on Lulu Publishing. You can get a copy on I think get it on Amazon or anything. And then I wrote a book called Desperate Dogs Determined Measures, which talked about the serious dogs in shelters and the help they need and things like that. That book is good for shelter dog trainers, but it's a hard book. It's not an easy book. It's not necessarily something that, pet dog trainers need to look at. Pet bulls. I might appear biased on this subject, but you really don't think the American Pit Bull Terrier on average has better nerves than the average German Shepherd or Malinois or operant nervous reaction? Hang on, I'm not reading the question, but you really don't think the American Pit Bull Terrier on average has better nerves than the average GS? Well, on average, if you're saying average dogs, a Pit Bull and a Malinois are closer than a German Shepherd, right? Because they both have thin nerves. And they're both extremely highly prey-driven dogs. So I'm not really sure what you're saying on the topic. I'm assuming because of your name, 123 Pet Bulls, that it's a play on pit bulls, and you probably are you think I don't like pit bulls. And here's the issue. I don't personally like pit bulls for a dog for me. I've helped save more pit bulls than most anybody I know because of my work in the shelters. I understand the breed. I understand the breed is not for everyone. And I will say the same thing about Belgian Malinois. A Belgian Malinois is not a good dog for everyone. A Belgian Malinois and a pit bull are equally bad for the average dog owner. How about that? And I have a Belgian Malinois, and I love Belgian Malinois. So, yeah, I think they do have thin nerves, and I think that's the problem. And I think, what you have with a Belgian Malinois, you have incredible herding and prey drive, and a pit bull, you have natural dog aggression and prey drive. So when you put those components in with thinner nerves, with poor ownership, with bad breeding, you're ending up with a genetic mess of a dog that's a disaster because it actually enjoys biting. Pit bulls and Malinois love biting. So when you put those components together, you just have a disaster. And that's what we're facing now with the pit bulls in the shelters and the Malinois in the shelters. It's going to be a disaster. Are there any plans to encourage Janet to perhaps do some lessons, perhaps on the member site? You both have different energies, both incredible, dedicated. Yeah. Lucy, I don't think that's going to happen. I've asked Janet so many times. I want her to do like a little agility thing for, like a little basic agility thing. She doesn't really like to. Janet's very private. She's very, very shy. She's beautiful, absolutely stunning, extremely talented, as a dog trainer. But it's not her thing. It's just not her thing. Kathy. Jesus, that's a long one. I don't even think I can get this whole thing on the page. I am and have been involved in the rescue and volunteered at shelters. I'm facing fatigue. My heart is so sad when I leave, as I know we can't save them all. There are more dogs than people to adopt them here, by the way, everywhere. I helped a trauma case at a nearby shelter. It was a whole puppy mill breeder who locked the females and puppies in kennels outside of an abandoned garage. The shelter manager called me, and although many were saved that night, many were not. It isn't always about the sweet ones I foster that get great families. How do I deal with this fatigue? Kathy, I'm going to tell you something. And this is something Janet and I tell every volunteer we see at the shelter. You're doing God's work. Whatever dog you can save, you're doing God's work. Dogs that fall through the cracks and die or are killed in shelters are no fault of the shelter workers or the volunteers. They're the fault of the assholes who bred them and who didn't care for them, the people who bought them, the people who gave up on them, the people who dumped them at the shelter. It's their fault. It's not your fault. The fatigue is real. I understand it. I've been in this game for 15 years. And it's hard for me because people always say, oh, you could take that dog. You could help that dog. But I don't, right? I know my job. I've got a certain cutout that I do that protects me spiritually and emotionally, that when I go to the shelter, I know what I can do. I can assess the dogs, I can develop training plans, and I can market those dogs. If I take one home with me, I'll take them all home with me. And I'll never be at the shelter again. So I might say 5, but thousands will be lost. So I make that decision. I have my dogs here, my pet dogs, my personal family dogs, And then I have my passion for helping the dogs in the shelters. And that's all I can do. That's all you can do. You can only do what you can do. So don't worry about it. Is that a Mercedes symbol to your right? If you think this here, whoops, is a Mercedes symbol, then don't go car shopping. Don't go car shopping, whatever you do. Cole says, any advice for an Aussie who's overexcited and frustrated when guests come over? Thank you for your content, Robert. You're welcome, Cole. You need to get the dog used to it. So what happens generally, you'll have the dog will be out, people will be, oh, the puppy, they'll be playing with the puppy. And the problem is the dog gets stimulated. And when you have an Aussie that has a high degree of prey drive, it's a really excitable dog, high energy dog, and it continues to feed into it. A couple things you can do. One, have the puppy in another room, bring the puppy out for a couple minutes. Hi, nice puppy, put the puppy away. Have the puppy in a crate when people come over. Tell people when they come over, don't get giddy about my dog. Just ignore my dog. And I did this. It's a funny story. I had, when Goofy was a puppy, I was living in a small bungalow off BCH. And I said to people, I said, if you come over, if you get giddy with the puppy, I'm going to ask you to leave. And most people listen to me. They say, okay, I won't do it. And I remember, I forget who it was. A friend of mine came over and I said, please just ignore the puppy, Goofy. And they came in, they went right over the crate. They go, oh, I said, okay, that's it, you got to go. And I literally pushed them out the door and I said, that's it. If you can't follow my house rules, you're not welcome in my house. And when I'm raising a puppy, everything is about that puppy. Everything is about that puppy becoming a perfect dog. Dwayne went from being a puppy to being a perfect dog because Janet did the hard work. Goofy went from being a puppy to being a great dog because I did all the hard work. Now, Jimmy came in, he was perfect when Janet got him. Maya was far from perfect when I got her, but she developed into a dog. But puppies, man, you got to be right on top of it. My favorite breed, that's a loaded question, Lynn. I don't really have a favorite breed. I mean, I obviously love Malinois. I really, really, really love them. I love German Shepherds. I love miniature dachshunds. That's going to be the next dog. At some point in the next few years, we're probably going to get another miniature dachshund. I love their personality. They're just the coolest dog. Labradors are great dogs. I mean, there's a lot of great dogs. It would depend for what purpose and for who it would be for. Like mine wouldn't necessarily be, favorite dog would not necessarily be a good dog for you. Milestone follower, Jim, thank you so much. I appreciate it very, very much. Thank you. All my Milestone followers, thank you. And all my followers, in general, I don't consider people fans. I consider you guys, like a family, like a second family to me, my dog training family. And it means a lot to me. All of you guys, I think that's very, very nice. Let's see. I have no idea what that means, Michelle, but I thought I put up there because it seems like you, I don't know. Oh, here. Sherry's nice. Nice to see you, Sherry. Thank you for that, Sherry. Very good. Also, by the way, if you guys follow Sherry, Sherry and Harold make the best dog food. So all raw dog food that they make. I fed it for a long, long, long time, and all our dogs do very, very, very well on it. So I highly, highly, highly suggest you check them out. Prey Drive. Let's see. What do we got here? QQQ. Okay, that's clever, but you should put a question mark. So I almost missed this one. Is it correct that female dogs dominate and put male dogs in their place? Yes. A solid female there's nothing better than a solid female in a house full of male dogs because Maya rules the roost. Like nobody messes around Maya. Goofy doesn't, Dwayne doesn't, Jimmy wouldn't do anything no matter what. But yeah, a good female will always put a male in their place, and a good male will also always accept that. So it's a really, really nice balance to have. Jim, foundation behaviors are basically, I mean, if you're saying foundation training behaviors, I mean, engagement, focus to the handler, calm behaviors, being able to be neutral outside. The first three things I always teach every dog, pet dog, I should say, are come, stay, and leave it. And that's it. Those are the real foundations. Let's see. Yeah, Maya is a very, very sweet dog. She's a lot of work, but she's very sweet. Okay. Some of you guys are getting way off. Okay, you know, Michelle Weller, whoever's on here as an admin, can you block her? I think she's a kook. Just, you know, you get so many kooks, right? You got so many good people on here. Look, we got 100, 200 people and you got one kook. So that's half of 1%. That's a miracle, right? Like in my daily existence, I don't get that. I don't see 100 people and not find at least 3 or 4 that I can't stand that are completely psychopaths. I like flexi leads. I like flexi leads for training. I like using them for recall. I take them to dog shows when I'm working a dog and trying to socialize the dog so that I can give the dog as much room or as little room as I need. I don't necessarily like them for walking dogs because a dog will walk at the end of whatever leash you give them. So if that's a 6-foot leash or a 10-foot leash or a 30-foot leash, they're going to be at the end of it. And if I'm going to do a 30-foot flexi leash, I might as well take my dog off leash. Okay, I only got time for like one more, maybe 2. Shuvani says, I have a young Aussie that has juvenile cataracts, which she just had surgery, and there's a possibility she will go blind in her left eye. I've been training her to trial in obedience and healing on my left. Will it confuse her to train on the right? I'm a member. Well, thanks for being a member. And the member live, by the way, is right in 2 minutes. I'm going to go straight into the member live. Just because a dog is blind in one eye, I would not change the healing side. I teach healing on both sides. I'm not saying you shouldn't have your dog heal on both sides, but just because they're blind in one eye, I would not think that changing the healing will make that better for the dog. I hope that makes sense. Martina says, my younger female dog sits on my older male dog, basically to take his spot. I want him to defend himself without fighting. Should I intervene? No. If he's cool with it, he's cool with it. You know, I mean, you could kind of just move her, but you're not going to teach your dog to protect himself or defend his right or anything like that. You're just going to correct the behavior. Like, hey, don't do that. Like I will do that. If Maya gets pushy, then I'll certainly fix her. I'm just pumping through these as fast as I can, guys, so please bear with me. And if you do me a favor, please make sure you subscribe to this page. I mean, I'm having a really hard time getting over 300,000 subscribers. I think it's because we're kind of saturated as just being a site or a page that focused on good, clean content and not being, you know, not posting stupid videos. Anyway, Melissa says, how do you correct stubborn counter surfers? My 7-year-old GSD pup is so bold about popping on the counter. I repeatedly correct and remove him from the area. Usually it's great. He's pretty persistent, determined. Is there a specific method? Just be firm. You know, you need to be extremely, extremely firm. And a 7-month-old dog, you know, in that I mean, I always say that before the dog is 18 months old, if you don't have a come to Jesus meeting with your dog, a strong dog like a German Shepherd, a Malinois, a Pit Bull, a Mastiff Corso, you know, a Rottweiler, a Doberman, any of these dogs, at some point they have to know that you are the ultimate authority. And people say, oh, you're saying to abuse them, to hurt. I'm not saying that. I'm saying at some point before 7 months old, your dog should know that you have the power to correct them, to put them in their place. Once they know that, they will listen to you. And they will be happy to listen to you. But if they don't think you can put them in their place, which you can, Melissa, do at 7 months old with a German Shepherd, you will not be able to do that at 24 months. And if that dog has not learned that lesson by the time he's 18 months or so old, he will never learn that lesson. And you will have a persistent dog that will continue to be misbehaved. So that being said, I'm just looking here. If there's anything I'm missing, guys, I gotta hop off. Sorry, it's 10 o'clock. There's so many questions. I'm so sorry. Please, you know, I wish I could save this chat somehow. Is there a way I can save this chat? I don't think so. Why don't you guys post these questions somewhere on my Facebook or Instagram, and then I will, I'll get to them. I'll do like, you know, I'll do daily Ask Me Anything. So there's some really, really good questions. Johnny, Portugal, it's good to see you. I love it. I love seeing you guys from all these different countries. Thank you for being here. God bless you guys. And if you're members, run on over. I'll be there in literally like 60 seconds. God bless. Take care.